UnDaoDu. I want to talk about basically communing as a Sahadu with the do with another, right? And this is something I experienced for the first time. I did um, just the other night, and I spent the day in a way chanting at another individual that I had just met, and I felt this very deep connection with this person, and I just couldn't stop staring at her beautiful eyes and just a beautiful individual. But I could sense her pain. I could feel it, kind of like radiating out of her, and I felt this desire to help, kind of bring some focus to her sense of unfocusedness, and that's the best way. I'm trying to use language correctly, so I want you to imagine someone who is in themselves unfocused, not necessarily being distracted. It's just they're unaligned. Their do is in pain. It is distracted. They are in this kind of survival mode, and and really have had a lot of trauma in their life, and not understanding why them to go through that. Why am I being inflicted by all of this, right? And then on top of that, um, she shared that she had the condition of Lyme disease, and Lyme disease is something that a lot of people have, and they don't know it. They get bitten by an infected tick, and that tick basically has a virus in it that burrows in, and it has a corkscrew like shape, and it burrows down and goes right into deep into your body. So it's very hard, like into the bone marrow, up into your spinal fluid. It's very extremely hard to get it out of your system, and you have to go through intense treatment for that, antibiotics and other things. Now, I'm gonna do like I did with my friend. Um, I was wanting to do kind of like a shamanistic, healing of her, right? So after chanting all the way home and focusing my energy, the dew, that is the energy, right? Think of me as a white hole of dew kind of coming out of me, and I'm focusing that dew onto her, right? And onto that pain. And then that night, I went over to a friend's house and to actually UnDaoDu, um, and we had a great time. I drank a couple beers, and I also smoked. And I really don't smoke. I hit this watermelon, which is kind of it's an indica, right? It's a downer. But I didn't feel down. I didn't feel high or anything, and I was done. I came back. I felt fine, and then I basically went to bed, and I was lying in bed, and I hadn't checked my Facebook, and I went to check my Facebook, and I saw I had 3 friend requests, and one of the 3 was her, and I was so happy that because I felt like my helping her hadn't wasn't over, and I didn't know if I'd see her again. And when she sent me the friend request, I was like, oh, cool. And I was laying in bed like I am now, and I started just focusing again on her and chanting, right? And I started to go into it. I could feel it, this ayahuasca state of basically a sublime state of body meditation, and I felt like she was right there hovering, right there, And I want you to imagine like blue flame, like I am just a body of blue flame, right? And that's the dew, right? And her dew, and it was like my dew was reaching up around hers, and hers was reaching down around me, and we weren't even touching. It was just our dew, right? Dancing and completely emerging with each other. Um, and I was, and it was like it was a sankara. And if you know what a sankara release from Vipassana meditation, it was like a constant sankara enfolding of this divinity, right? Of the dew. You understand, people who feel the need to get high is they're seeking that divinity. They're seeking that thing that they're missing, right? Once you have that divinity, once you have that connection, you don't have a need for the dew. So the Delta 8, the dew, is a very nice body and mind kind of its experience of that dew, that sense of relaxing and this connection that you feel is ultimately what a sadhu, one who lives with the dew, feels all the time. But this was intense. We don't feel it as intense, right? And we just know it's there. We have no craving for it because we know it's there. An doesn't understand and is unconnected to the do and doesn't feel it. And they crave that connection. Or sometimes what happens is because they get on painkillers, right? They inadvertently discover that connection because of their failed pain management system or what they're going through, and they ultimately find other ways to do it. So this amazing event happened, and I was like, it was like I was in ayahuasca, like I was literally caressing or being one with, and I said to myself, wow, this is what you know being with a soulmate is. This is what ultimately what soulmateness is. Now, let's talk about soulmates and why you may feel this connection. You may feel the dew of another, right? And when you feel the dew of another, that's that spiritual love. That's that spiritual. When you that here's the thing, is it's not a double way road. It's so rare to find that double way, Like I have felt, because as a sadhu, I can have this tendency to feel this the dew of another in this soul. And, you know, it doesn't mean that that person is also a sadhu themselves. They may be in their state of right? And as a sadhu, right, your sense of another's dueness can be stronger, and you will. It's very easy to be enamored because, in a way, it becomes like that drug. When you meet someone and you have that due connection with them, it doesn't mean they have it with you, but when you have it with them, and you're like, this is my soulmate. And it's really probably the most agonizing things in the world, I would say, because I've gone through it a number of times. It is why I ended up in Japan. Is when you have that connection with the others, and you think they have it with you, and they don't, and they end up breaking your heart, and or leaving you. You have the most amazing. You have your sadhu, and you're their sadhu, and and ultimately you lose that. And she lost that with with her husband, and they have an amazing little boy, and he's hurting. He doesn't have his dad anymore, right? So it's that is the do-ness. But the thing is like, as this event happened, I realized, man, this is better than the best sex I've ever had. What I went through last night, and whether it was just my mind creating, doesn't matter what the experience. And it lasted so long. It was your entire body basically being in electric. And that's the power of Delta 8, is to be able to put you into that state, right? Where you can commune with another. And I felt a little guilty because I'm like, man, if she's feeling this like I'm feeling this right now, right? I didn't really ask her pleasure. But then I realized it's like, if it was, you cannot take from someone else's due, right? That openness has to be there. And then I'm like worried, like, well, maybe unconsciously that connection is there, and I'm having this spiritual, sex, really what it is. I'm having this most profound, this most infinite, imment of entangling with another's due. That's a conscious state. So everyone's due. So in a way, it's like we live in this ocean where where we are one in the state of due-ness. And I use the analogy of the clouds in the ocean. They're that is the cycle, right? In a way, it's a metaphor for many things. We're merely the raindrops dropping from the clouds to the ocean. Our point of consciousness is that point where we form a droplet and we start to fall. That is the beginning. And as we fall through the air, right, you could think of where in the cloud would be our DNA. Our DNA would be the drops itself, and then who we're interacting with from that area of the cloud versus the experiences flying down through the sky. All those are your own. So those are the three things that define who we are: our DNA, our culture, and our experiences. Right. So those three things are on our dows and our do's. The do defines who you are. The do's you interact with define who you are. So we're just that raindrop, and life is just that short. It seems an eternity whilst we're alive, and I'm sure as a raindrop falling from the sky to the ground, I mean, it's living a lifetime before it returns back to the ocean. It hits the ocean and goes boom, right? And it becomes one again with itself. And it is this data that we are basically storing and learning in a way. The more sadhus that evolve out of the raindrops, the more we become awoken to the fact of who we are. The fact that we are not, our age, but in fact the age of the universe. We are 13.8 billion years old. That's it. That's a fact. And when you start to realize that we are that age, when we are that ancient, and that everything around us is basically a manifestation of the do, right? An expression of the do, a creative expression. We are creative things, so we creatively color the do. And it's fine to color the do, provided you're not imposing it on others, because if we're all creative, everyone should be able to color. And finally, we're not harming others in that creation. So people are going to find unity in coloring with others, and there's your religious organizations, and that's fine. But you shouldn't pass judgment on others, right? And you shouldn't impose yours on others. It should be a free coloring for anyone to join. And that is the metaphysics of distributive unconsciousness. That is Duism, what I've described to you just now. That is, as a Duist, you are one who believes in those precepts. We all have a right to color. We don't impose our coloring, and we don't harm people in our coloring. Coloring is just a word I use to designate your faith, your religion, your philosophy. Okay? It's a metaphysics outlook to all that. I'm UnDaoDu, just talking about the do and this amazing experience I had. And I am going to, have it again, I guess. I had something to look forward to, not something I crave. UnDaoDu, to you and yours. Hope you enjoyed this little talk of mine.